Attention Golden residents. This is a community notification of a newly registered sexually violent predator in your area. Please stay tuned to the following short presentation for more information.
Hello, I'm Commander Drew Williams with the Golden Police Department Support Services Division. Our job is to protect our residents and visitors, and one of the best ways to do that is to make sure you all are well informed about what is happening around you. This video is to let you know about a sexually violent predator who has moved into the area. The Criminal Investigations section at GPD is responsible for the registration, tracking, and monitoring of all registered sex offenders and sexually violent predators living in the city of Golden. Here's a brief history of sex offender legislation in the state of Colorado. Our state laws stem from federal government mandates. In 1994, the Jacob Wetterling Act mandated that states would create and maintain sex offender registry lists. Megan's Law of 1996 established the public's right to have access to those sex offender registry lists. The Pam Leichner Act of 1996 established specific criteria requiring identified offenders to have lifetime registrations. The Adam Walsh Act of 2006 unified sex offender laws across the country. In Colorado, the state legislature determined that sexually violent predators, by definition, pose a higher risk to the community at large and therefore mandated that upon their release from the Department of Corrections, the community they move into must be notified. Sex offender registration in Colorado is completed in two ways. The first is passive and ongoing through the sex offender registration process. These lists are maintained by your local police or sheriff's department. The second is an active community notification, like what you are watching here. This is for offenders determined to be sexually violent predators by the courts or parole board. Most sex offenders in Colorado have mandatory supervision by the criminal justice system in our local communities. So what does a sex offender look like, and how can you spot one? It's important to note here, there is no typical look for a sex offender, and many of them have no criminal history prior to their arrest. However, offenders often engage in crossover behavior, which means they are more prone to commit other types of crimes. Most sexual predators are male. 80 to 90% of sex offenses are committed by someone known to the victim. They tend to be deceptive, manipulative, and secretive with their victims. Sexual deviancy begins to develop in mid to late adolescence. Once an offender gets to the point of committing the crime, these sexual attacks are usually carefully planned out and not impulsive behavior. A sexually violent predator living in Golden must register with the Golden Police Department every 3 months for the rest of their life. The offender's residence must be verified every quarter by the Golden Police Department. You and our entire community have a vested interest in ensuring offenders are successfully managed in the community. It is important to understand that offenders who have served their sentence have the same needs as we do for housing and employment. They also have the right to live here. Anyone who uses sex offender information to harass, threaten, or intimidate an offender will be subject to criminal prosecution. Currently, there are approximately 16,500 registered sex offenders in the state of Colorado. About 65% of convicted Colorado sexual offenders are placed on probation. The remainder are in the Department of Corrections or Community Corrections. Offenders may be caught for one type of offense, but be at a high risk to commit another type. Crime of conviction is only one indicator of risk. The full sex offender registration list is available by calling the Golden Police Department's Criminal Investigations section at 303-384-8045. Remember, sexually violent predators do not represent all dangerous sex offenders. The community notification process and sex offender registration are not a complete deterrent to sexual assault. Here's an overview of the sex offenders currently living in the city of Golden. Currently, there are 34 registered sex offenders living citywide. 12 are registered in the Adam District, 18 are registered in the Baker District, 4 are registered as transient. There are 24 felony-associated cases, and there are 10 misdemeanor-associated cases. The current sexually violent predator specifically addressed in this presentation is Wayne Joseph Evano. Date of birth is 9/15 of 1976. He is a white male, 6'1", 190 pounds, brown hair, hazel eyes. Wayne Joseph Evano is currently registered and residing at 517 Maple Street. Schools located within 1 mile of the offender are Mitchell Elementary School, Colorado School of Mines, Golden High School. Parks located within 1 mile of the offender are Normandy Memorial Park, White Ash Mine Park, Grant Terry Park, Lions Park, Clear Creek Water Park, Parfit Park, Discovery Park. Recreation centers within 1 mile of the offender are the Golden Community Center, Colorado School of Mines Student Recreation Center, Mines Park Community Center. Bus routes located within 1 mile of the offender are Washington Avenue and Iowa Drive, 2nd Street and Washington Avenue, 10th Street and Washington Avenue, 12th Street and Ford Street, 13th Street and Washington Avenue, 13th Street and Ford Street, 17th Street and Jackson Street. Here is a brief history of Wayne Joseph Evano's charges. Sex offender, false information on registration, 2019. Sex assault, overcome victim's will in the attempt, 2015. Public sexual indecency, 2004. Indecent exposure, 2004. He is currently on parole, and he registered with the Golden Police Department on September 22nd, 2020, to the address of 517 Maple Street. A sexually violent predator is determined after meeting 4 specific criteria. Criteria 1, age 18 or older on the date of offense, or under 18 and tried as an adult. Criteria 1 met. The offender was age 39 at the time of the offense. Criteria 2, the crime must have been committed on or after July 1, 1997, and convicted on or after July 1, 1999. Crimes include sexual assault, felony unlawful sexual contact, sex assault on a child, person in position of trust. Criteria 2 met. The offender was convicted of sexual assault, overcome a victim's will in the attempt, 2015. Criteria 3. The relationship to the victim was one of the following. Victim was a stranger to the offender, or the offenders established or promoted a relationship with the victim primarily for the purpose of sexual victimization. Criteria 3 met. The victim was a 22-year-old female. The offender was not known to the victim. Criteria 4. Positive results or the passing of a risk assessment instrument administered by probation or parole staff and a qualified treatment evaluator. Positive results include an assessment for the presence of mental abnormality, a level of denial regarding the offense, treatment appropriateness, and motivation, presence of sexual deviant interests. Criteria 4 met. The offender was evaluated by the Jefferson County courts with a positive result, determining him to be a sexually violent predator. This concludes our community presentation. Again, I am Drew Williams, the commander with the Golden Police Department. Please stay tuned after this presentation for further resource information. Again, I thank you very much for your time and attendance with this critical presentation impacting our community.
Here are additional resources. Golden Police Department Criminal Investigation Section, 303-384-8045. State of Colorado Parole, 1-800-426-9143. Colorado Bureau of Investigation, CBI website, sor.state.co.us. Colorado Sex Offender Management Board website, dcj.somb.state.co.us. Golden Police Department additional resources. Support Services Section, Commander Drew Williams, 303-384-8074. Criminal Investigation Section, Sergeant Marcus Williams, 303-384-8116. Detective Mike Ciavata, 303-384-8072. Golden Police Department Victim Advocacy. Exposure to traumatic events can result in the need for ongoing support or assistance. Prior victimization and/or exposure to other traumatic situations can have a significant effect on subsequent trauma. For additional support or information about available resources, please contact Golden Police Department's Victim Outreach Advocate at 303-384-8076.